my friends. Come along with me, see how the story ends. We are some hippies, these are my friends. Come along with me, see how the story ends.
USA, baby! Welcome back to another episode of the Professional Hippies Podcast.
Is that
fantastic?
Normally how you count things down?
What do you mean?
If you had to, gun to your head, how many countries do you think you could name?
Not. You know what? I don't even know. Probably I could get 10. I could get 10 definitely. If
not that I'm 10. Looking to exercise that right now. I'm genuinely curious. You know, if you had
comes
to.
Comes into the scene from the side.
Glenn, if you could make that happen, that'd be great.
My mercenary is just to the side of you. Ready to
That's go. All right, man. We all have our shortcomings, and if not knowing obscure countries in Africa is yours, I'll still be your friend.
How many people do they ask, like, is Africa a country? I bet you probably half the population of this world would be like, yeah, totally.
I've seen some videos come across my feed recently where a couple of guys are just going out and asking like ridiculously simple questions, and people just not even in the ballpark of like, yeah, what's the capital of America? They're like the capital. Like,
I love when they go on like really nice college campuses too. I don't know, like let's say Berkeley. You know, they go on like Berkeley and they ask some questions like that, like name 5 states, and people are like, and you're like, there's somebody with a high GPA that didn't get accepted into Berkeley, just pissed off somewhere.
Well, I've also seen the people. By the way, for a formal introduction, if you are new to our show, we're the Professional Hippies. If you're a returning visitor, hey, we've really appreciated the reviews. We need more of them. So
thanks for coming back.
Whatever the buttons are that you smash to let people know about us.
Brush up against that like
you
button,
could click, clack,
button,
tic tac, just move around and tell us what you think about the show, or rate it. We appreciate it.
Nose bump.
We're the Professional Hippies. We like to bridge the gap between a little bit of professionalism, a little bit of hippie woo-woo, somewhere in the middle. That's us. Back to what we were talking about. Yeah, I think it's the pressure. So if you're asked a question, like, hey, for $1, name a woman. I saw that question.
I saw that
around,
one. Name
right?
Just any woman.
Any woman. I mean, it's amazing what pressure can do. And you're like, Amelia Earhart.
That's where you run into the introverts and the extroverts. If you hit an introvert and they're just like, I was hoping I wouldn't get ran into anybody today, and now I'm getting on a TV question.
That's so true. That's actually probably exactly what it is. Or somebody that like just got high, like that poor soul.
Oh, there's another one of that where they asked him something. He was like, oh,
that did happen to somebody that they just baked and. Yeah, that's
just baked out of their mind, but they thought they were being. You could definitely tell that you could see in their face they thought they were just being coherent.
Yeah,
obviously not.
That's not what you want. That's not what you want. You're just looking for a nice stroll down. What is that? The Hollywood Avenue.
I don't know, but you see sometimes when they interview at festivals randomly like that, there's some whacked out people that could talk pretty well, pretty coherently. I mean, they're
have
like
just started following
into it.
Some of those accounts that are interviewing people at festivals. Some of the videos are so cringy, it like hurts my soul. Other videos, you're actually getting some of that pure essence that you hope, you wish you'd capture at a festival, where people are just saying little random nuggets of gold where you're like, that was beautiful.
That was
Thank
awesome.
you. And they just go about their day. They're just like, hey, yeah, here's a little, and they're out, right?
You're right. Ketchup is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Other people, you're like, wow, that's just a window in your world. We're just witnessing your sanity unfold right there. That's just like brain spaghetti.
If you were to just like go up to a blank, like a blank wall, right? And you just cut a square into it, you just poke it out, and then someone just comes screaming out of it. Like, patch that back up. Patch that back up. That's what that person's like. But then you get the next one, and then it's a little like nice,
Yeah.
Put a little color on it. Like a little blue, then cut a hole in it, and then they're like introspective. You're like, oh, that was nice.
I will say, just about any time I'm at a festival and, there's substances involved, I find it tremendously easier to communicate through humor. Like if I really need something, I can laugh it out a million times easier than I can like seriously communicate it. Like if I'm in dire need, I'm gonna say it like it's a joke, because then it's coming out. There's like no pressure. But God forbid you're like, no, I really need to compel you as to why the Pope is a false position and this is a fallacy that the world is based around. That's not an easy thing to communicate. You know what I mean? Not that would be like
the best is when
important.
I'm like having a little bit of an internal freak out, maybe at a festival, right? And to make myself feel better,
Internal freak out.
To make myself feel better, I realize that we're just a speck on a piece of dust floating on a rock through space, right? Nothing really matters.
Yeah.
But then that makes me feel better. But then also what makes me feel better is going to the person next to me that I can see is having a great time, not having an internal freak out, telling them that. And now that makes them have an internal freak out. So it passes the internal freak out away from me. And it just, now that reverberates somewhere else. And I'm like, sorry, but that made me feel better. I don't know if that made them feel better.
I think there's a deep lesson in that, right? So if you have problems, the way to get rid of them is to pass them on to someone else.
Just somewhere else.
Not my problem.
Like that, I was having some issues recently with insurance for the condo we got recently, and so the mortgage person and the insurance person couldn't fucking work together. So the escrow was paying for it. And anyway, I got a thing in the mail that was like, hey, your insurance is going away because you haven't made the payment. And I literally reached out to him and I was like, hey, how much more money and fees do I need to pay you for you to do your jobs and make this problem go away? Because now the problem has now reached me. The problem has now reached the person it should not reach in this instance, right? So I'm going to now push it back to you guys because you're the pros. My job in this whole thing as a professional is to professionally pay you. And your job is to professionally take care of that. So now you have made your problem worse. And so go ahead and take care of that, or there's going to be more problems that are going to fall onto you. And then all of a sudden they jump on a call and all of a sudden it's resolved. And it's like, why did we get to this point? Anyway, going back to what you're saying, correct. Just push the problems onto somebody else and pay for it for the problem to go away. Correct.
Oh, when you can afford, I guess that's a great
true
point.
too.
When you can afford to pay for the problem to go away, because if you're just dumping problems and not greasing some wheels, then that in itself is a problem for you.
That's true. Like example, we looked at your yard, right? Like we could pay someone to do that, but we could do it. We could knock that out,
Yeah. Speaking of yard, I mean that's a great example. That shit happens all the time when somebody's got a flooding problem in their yard. And they're like, you know what? I can solve this. I can just make it drain into the next yard. That happens all the time.
Angle this yard just a little bit to the right. But not so much that it's noticeable.
Yeah.
So if he looks over that fence, it doesn't look like the yard is angled back towards me.
I mean, that's not happening here in Austin because rain doesn't exist here. I mean, I'm convinced my house is going to crack in half because there's so much, I don't know, whatchamacallit. I'm seeing cracks all over the house, dude, where I'm like, this is kind of starting to freak me out, man. I've never seen a drought like this where the ground's literally moving away from the house. I'm like, okay.
Just put some water on it. Just hose your house down.
Everything's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's on fire. It's fine.
Sprinkler. You're not watering your yard. You just water the roof of your house. You're going to do all right.
Dude, home ownership. I was looking at some stuff the other day about living in a van because Abby and I have been
by the river?
Down by the river where there's a levee that's dry. Abby and I were revisiting the idea of living in a van. I don't know that we practically would do it. Not a van, the RV. Mini Winnie the Brave. When you run the cost, it's really not that fucking cheap.
You could do it. I could do it. Our partners could not do it. I
don't know what fucking button I need to mash to second that, but yeah.
Because her and I have talked about it, but then when you try to think long term, If there's not something to come back to,
what's long term? 3 days, 4 days?
exactly. If there's not something to come back to, if there's not in their mind that, hey, at the end of this, there is a wide open space that I can sit down in and watch TV and shower in.
Yeah.
If that's not in their mindset, it's a chemical imbalance.
I've been really feeling that chemical imbalance. I think part of, so I was telling you before we got on here, part of the stress, the headache that I'm feeling is from stress. Yeah, it's like one of those where you're like thinking so hard about so many things that don't fucking matter that you give yourself a stress headache. You ever do that?
Every day. Every day. And my mind runs through stuff so quickly, and then I have to go like, it doesn't matter. It'll come around. It'll be fine.
It's been like 2 or 3 days where it's nauseating. It's amazing to me. I don't even want to meditate. Like sitting down, write out my thoughts, sit down, take a couple of deep breaths. But the stress of nothing. I mean, there's really not a lot driving this other than just thoughts and just thinking. And this just happens every so often. I find where I just think myself to death, but it's mind numbing. It
gets to the point where you think about it, but then your brain thinks to a point that you go, okay, and you know what? You almost punish it and go, none of it matters. Well, it's trying to make you think it is, and then you just go, hey.
When you said the whole speck of dust thing earlier, that's my brain went. It kind of goes two ways. There's like the, oh, nothing matters, be a naked butterfly just screaming in town, in Manhattan Square. Or it runs in the other direction where it's like, nothing fucking matters. So why are you treating it like it matters? And it just starts this convolution of just like tumbling into itself. Kind of like when a trip goes sideways and you're like, hey, this is not the direction we want to run with it.
This isn't what I paid for. Give me rainbows.
Except when you're tripping, you can't take Tylenol, make at least the headache go away. You can relieve at least a little of the pressure with aspirin, I find, but got to get to the root.
It might make it even a little bit trippier. Yeah, like one thing I noticed, because I've been sanding down my pantry door, because it just was time to get all those coats of paint off and redo it. And I had to also sand down the trim in the house, but I can't go outside with that. So dust just ends up everywhere inside the house because I didn't think about blocking it off. For like 2 days, my mind's like, clean it. And I had to be like, nope, it's okay. It's just paint particles that'll give me cancer one day. It's all right. Just let it go. Keep wash off the plate, eat some stuff, whatever you got to do. But it was like mentally I had to do all these other things in life while the rest of my house was just dusty. And you just have to push it off.
I'm really impressed you took the sanding approach instead of prying off the trim.
Because because the prying off the trim would have just taken way longer to do. Whereas I could just sand it down a little bit, get it down to a nice wood, and just paint right over that. How
long did it take you to sand it? A couple hours.
To do the trim, probably like an hour.
Okay.
On the trim, yeah, because I got a little sanding thing, and the door. It took me an hour to do one side of the door, and came back to the next day, did the other side.
Yeah,
it doesn't take that long if you got good. Now the key was to get good grit, like the lower grit, get like a 40 grit. Because I have like 50. Like there was 4 layers of paint. It was like yellow, tan, brown. I don't know. That had to be the 80s. Some sort of gray brown. And then white on top of it. Oh. So that was like 4 layers of so it was like that old thick paint too, so I had to get like 40 grit and get that bitch off.
That old thick paint.
Like the stuff that it's not even sticking anymore. It's to the wall. It's just so thick that the weight of it holds it to the wall. So I could just take a scraper and go up it to get those second and third layers, and it would just fall off like books on a shelf. Just
every time you say thick, I'm like visually picturing
thick.
THICC. Thick boy.
Thick.
Yeah, man. I would love to do some home improvement projects. That's like a weird thing that my soul craves, is something about fixing the RV, fixing the house, or killing all the rats that are trying to get in the house.
See, but your mind is going, which one? Which one
Yeah.
do we do?
Yeah,
Which
stress.
one do we come at? You know, which one's
Yeah.
more important in this?
All of it. Right
I feel
now.
like the rats would be the most important because if you have to take out a wall or something, because you're gonna have to fix your walls with the cracks anyways. So why not just attack the rats? And you're gonna have to replace
no, you don't have to take out the wall. I'm now finding what they did before I bought the
you
house.
have to find the nest. Like sometimes you have to take out a little like a drywall to get to the nest.
Oh no, I know where they're at. The nest is outside, and they're accessing a highway of sorts to come into the attic. It's really cool. I have to show you sometime. I'll send you a video. It's impressive. I mean, I've already put up do not cross signs, so to speak, and if they're driving little mouse cars, they flick me off as they go into the attic. If there was a camera set up right there, they would for sure stop for a photo op.
That's what you got to do. You got to do a toll booth. You got to set up a camera toll booth there.
Yeah, I would make a fucking killing, man.
I got to turn in some cheese.
Yeah, or anything. I don't care. It could be a fucking acorn. I would collect it. We could live copacetically. You know, it could be a take relationship, so to speak.
Well, you got to get one of those videos where there's this guy that he posts them all the time where it's like different ways to trap rats. He lets go all of his rats and then they fall into a bucket and then they're...
Yeah, see that dude, he likes his rats though. I fucking hate these guys, man. Every time I put up something, they chew right fucking through it, and I'm so impressed. I'm like...
That's what I'm saying. His rats live. You know, you get them in a bucket.
But what I'm saying is I want to murder these ones, so I need a bucket with, like, saws.
Or you catch them. There are tons of introverts that probably would buy your rats just to have them in the house.
Well, if they answer what is a woman correctly. Not what is a woman, name a woman. Have you seen the documentary What is a Woman? I want to watch that.
Oh, no, I will watch that, though. I've heard that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one, man. Yeah, no, it's just all the projects and things you want to do. It's just prioritization, you know. And I think so. We recently, you know, we took that trip to Hawaii, and that was
tell us about that. How was that?
That was the tits, man. It was the tits. I think for Abby and I both, we're just kind of in this place where we're thinking really intentionally about what the next steps are, and that was a great opportunity to just take some space. I think what was interesting for me is I found that, like, taking the space to go on a trip like that was, you know, her gift to me as a birthday trip. You'd think, like, hey, I'm going to figure it all out on this trip. You do those, you know, where you're like, I'm going to take a 2-3 day trip, vacation, whatever. I'm going to figure it out. It's weird. I find that, like, if you just put yourself in a position to create the space, the answer comes pretty fucking quickly. The how doesn't necessarily. The execution of it doesn't, but the answer, it's like any time you've been in a relationship that you wanted out of and you're like, I've felt in the past this need to, like, I need to go on a trip, sit with myself, whatever. I fucking knew within a couple of seconds of just giving myself space away from my problems what the answer was.
Those were the good old days.
Of what? Just
you know, when you wanted to go on a trip, I was like, yeah, it's buck wild time. I know what this means.
Hugging the earth so I don't fall off.
All that poison ivy.
Yeah, man. So it's a little bit of that. I mean, detracting from the experiences of the trip, but like the overall theme or message or whatever was, it was great from a mental standpoint. But I don't know. I guess there's still like an integration process coming up for me after that trip of, the space I was intentionally taking, my intention going on the trip, you know, kind of looking forward to the future. Now, as far as the other shit, you know, seeing the mountains, fucking unreal.
Crazy, right?
That's right. You've been to Hawaii. That's where you proposed, huh?
Yeah.
What island did you?
Go to? Oahu is where we were, but I proposed in Maui. Is where I proposed at.
Maui's a Hawaiian island?
Maui is a Hawaiian island. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know all the islands. You got the big island, Oahu, Maui.
That's all I know.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to nail it down while I was there, but I just kept getting confused because, like, we're in we're on Oahu, but there's like Honolulu and there's like Waikiki.
I definitely
Bay
thought Honolulu would be in the. Is Honolulu on the Big Island or in Oahu?
Oahu.
That's what was always wild to me. I thought it would be on the Big Island.
I don't know how that fucking works.
And it's over here.
I look on the map and it's got like fucking different names for everything. So I'm like, that's definitely just a part of the island, not the name of the island.
I thought Honolulu was an island.
I thought it was an island too. That's what I didn't understand. I'm like, how does this work? Yeah. So we do different excursions, different days and stuff. So we started on the Big Island and ended in Oahu. Did some surfing. Did you go to any of the places where you could like snorkel?
We didn't do the North Shore stuff or anything like that. We did more in the mountains, hiking stuff.
Did you do any really hard hikes?
Nothing hard. We did one that was not even that intensive, but it was going deep into it for a little bit, but nothing super labor intensive.
Yeah. This poor girl. Man. The last day, I was like, hey, let's just do some stuff. Let's explore. And I try and take it easier. I'm more of like, if we can do one thing a day, then we're good, right?
Yeah.
But the last day, I just wanted to squeeze a little bit too much in. Even for me, by the end of the day, I thought I was going to throw up. I was like, dude, we started with Pearl Harbor. Epic. Loved it.
Epic. That's a great time.
Then we went to, I think it's called Waimanu, Waimanu Falls. I think I'm spelling that right. And there's a pretty cool hike. So I checked it out on All Trails. It says hard, but all of the reviews say, hey, this is definitely moderate. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I looked at like that day responses because we didn't have hiking shoes. And they were like, if it's raining, you definitely want proper hiking boots and stuff. But if it's not.
Oh, you went to the tropical. We did the tropical like area. Like it looks like a rainforest, but it's not type of
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we went on a same. I know exactly where you're going.
Did it have ropes on your trail?
No, we didn't have ropes, but it was pretty muddy.
Dude, we had to fucking rappel down some shit.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
For us.
For us.
Dude, on the way up there, so I don't know how I did something or she did something. I don't know. We were pissed at each other about something. You know how it goes. Sometimes you're on vacation, just whatever. It happens. We're going to the trailhead, and I pass this poor son of a bitch, like right before we get into the trailhead. His chick is going in on him, and is like, no, we're going to stay in this fucking car, and we're going to finish this conversation before we go on this fucking hike that I didn't want to do in the first place. And I'm like, Abby wants no part of this hike. Is totally doing it for me. That woman's in the same position with her man. She's there to support him. He's done something, pissed her off. And I'm like, good luck, soldier. So we get on the hike, we get a little bit into it, and then we're realizing like, hey, this is more than what we bargained for, right? This is starting to, Abby's slipped a couple times, and I'm like, okay, this is nothing sketchy yet, but this is going somewhere. We pass another couple, and I was like, hey, just curious, guys, like, how much sketchier does this get? And this chick's like blown out, because they're coming back up. And I see the look on this poor guy's face of just pure guilt. And he said something, and I've just resonated. So long story short, now we're 3 soldiers deep, the same position. She wanted no part of this hike. He drug her into it. And I'm like, fuck, man. And we're looking at them like, I don't know, it's probably a solid 60-degree incline. So we're towering above them with a bunch of rocks to get down to them. And they're doing great. They head out. And then we get into a portion where I'm like, fuck, like this is fun for me, but this is sketchy, this is, if an ankle twist, we got no service. This is not fun getting anyone out because you're literally holding ropes, walking backwards down a mountain, bunch of rocks. Oh, yeah. Abby at one point stops. She goes, look at my legs. And they're just.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, I hats off to that girl. And we ran into one more couple where it was like same thing. The guy's like, man, hug the fucking mountain, take a left if you're trying to go to the waterfall. This was the voice of a man. You could tell this couple had taken a couple rights when they should have taken a couple lefts.
We had a tour guy for ours, but ours was through the company. That because that was when I did the President's Club trip.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, we thought it would actually be more strenuous than it was. We were hoping it would be. Ours were like pretty easy, but Christy and I went into it and we were like, we thought it would be harder than this, and it was super, super easy. But we did get to experience a little bit of that muddy tropical area, and she fell a couple of times, so I know exactly what you're talking. That mud is pretty.
It wasn't muddy when we went. Thank God, it was not muddy.
Man. It was a little muddy when
if
we
there
went.
was any, I'm talking the slightest amount. I was in my like, dress shoes, dude. Not like dress shoes, but like casual, semi-professional sneakers. I was in sneakers. So when I talk about sketchy, there was zero fucking grip on these shoes. It's the hardest hike I've ever done. I mean, when we went on the Appalachian Trail, the last couple of miles when we were going through the forest and those rocks were really muddy and like just sketchy the whole way through.
Very moist area.
Yeah.
Area.
So picture something like that, but way significantly steeper. We passed a chick with a dog in a bikini, no shoes on, coming up. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
We saw someone like that where we were coming back in an area like that, and there was some chick that was like, she had no shoes on, and she was talking to this guy who was like obviously out of his own element, and she was talking about like the energy from the forest and and I looked this guy in the eye, and I knew I looked this guy in the eye, and I was like, you want to just fuck her. And he looked, and I saw that energy come because he was out of his element with this very hippie, like outdoorsy. He had like shoes, shorts, the tennis, like. And I was like, I looked at it, I was like, I get it.
Play the game, big dog.
I hope it works out for you, buddy. But I saw it in his eyes. Because she just kept talking while he looked me in the eyes. I was like, you found a Hawaiian chick, I guess, or something. I was just very one with Earth out there.
I thought I was going to surf a lot more, and I had surfed one time. I got a hold of those rocks. It was whitewash. It wasn't even like, I wasn't even trying any of the waves or anything. Nope. I want no part of that.
Really? It was pretty wild out there, huh?
Yeah. I mean, when I learned how to surf in Costa Rica, that was where I caught a couple good waves and like felt really good. And I was on a longboard, but still I was catching the actual, I don't know what the technical term would be, but like the barreling part of the wave, not just the whitewash. Mm-hmm. So I was like actually dropped in a wave, felt really good. Go to Hawaii, and the beaches are not, I'm sure there's sections that are way better for beginners and stuff, and we were by some of those sections, but even those, like, it was like pebbles and shit and like shallow. I'm good on that, man. In Costa Rica, I was getting pummeled by waves. Totally cool with it because I was hitting sand, maybe some rocks here and there, but in Hawaii, fuck all of that. I saw people surfing. I was like, hell yeah! I bombed out there and smacked my knees a couple times on some gnarly rocks, and I was like, fuck, that shit's for the birds, dude. Y'all can have this. I'm good.
What was interesting was to talk with some of the locals that are there, because we got on top of the mountain, right? And you see in between the island, of course, it's just like you look out and it's open, right? But then you look to the left, and if you look at the passage between the other island and it is huge waves out there, which I'm guessing is which the North Shore was. And I'm like, wow, that is literally a funnel of just wind passing between two islands, just literally going from middle of nowhere, funneling in between these, and just that power of wind coming through there. I was like, that's amazing to think about. That's just a vast Pacific Ocean funneling through there. And then I was like, is that why like you have huge sailboats? They go, oh yeah, you'll see them coming, and they'll hit that stream, rock it through there. It's nuts. And they also said the fishing's amazing if you get out there to the deep. You don't have to go too far out, but
we're definitely gonna have to plan a trip back because I wanted to get a Polynesian tattoo, and we talked to a server at one of the restaurants, and he was awesome. And he kind of gave us the lowdown. It's like a whole cultural thing that you got to plan out way further in advance. I didn't feel right kind of planning, like with the Sakyons I have them back in Thailand. I did a lot of research, so I kind of knew the customs and stuff.
Sure.
And my goal is to get different styles of tattoos, kind of collect those. Like that's what I'm interested in. So I wanted to get one of the bone tap Polynesian tattoos. But there's like a lot of customs and culture that goes behind it that you need to honor.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So I wanted to wait till I got there, kind of scope it out, and sure enough, it's something I just need to do a lot more research into. Because
you don't want to get one too where they're like, oh yeah, right here, and it's just some guy that just puts random. You want one that's like more someone that really. Like if you go to one of those guys and they're like, no, you need to learn this first. Perfect. Thank you. That's who I want.
Yeah. Because they're like, just go with the gun. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but I can do that in the States,
Yeah.
So there's a couple of experiences that I definitely want to go back for. And we went to the Polynesian 100%. Culture Center. I don't know if you heard about that. It's kind of like
we didn't go to that.
It's kind of like a Disney for the Hawaiian and Polynesian cultures. So they have like Tonga, Fiji, and all the different groups represented there, and they have different workshops, different stuff you can do. It's super cool. It's great for kids, but like, man, we had a blast too. So I wanted to go like check out what that culture is all about. Here's the weirdest part for me. I don't know if you experienced this at all, but I was definitely in my head about this. In America, but I'm going to speak as a general collective, we don't really put much emphasis on how we just yoked the fucking land from the Indians. I mean, it doesn't, it's talked about, but it just doesn't, for some reason, feel very visceral to me. It doesn't feel tangible, so to speak. It's just like, yeah, it's accepted. When I go to Hawaii, like, and on the whole build up there, I had this like feeling, this like weirdness too, because we just yoinked that because we were like, hey, we don't need anybody close to us that has a tactical advantage in fucking us up. And so when you're playing on a world scale, they were going to be somebody's.
Yeah, I mean, I remember asking about that too, and it did kind of work out for them because then they could get the resources from that America is able to provide.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like it was going to happen with some culture.
Someone was going to get it. We just so happen to already have a military base there.
Yeah.
At the time. Do you remember going? So you went to Pearl Harbor. Did you do the boat out to the Arizona?
They didn't have it running that day.
Oh, all right. So I remember when we did that, and we got to go next to the there was there was a South Korean carrier there, and it gave me a perspective. I never realize how freaking big those things are. Holy crap!
Real
unbelievable. And then when we were coming back, there was a Japanese carrier coming in, and everyone was like, "Why is like?" That's a little interesting that there's a Japanese carrier. And then the national park guy was like, oh yeah, that's the first time any Japanese carrier has ever been here. And that's pretty interesting. Everyone look at that. And we were like, wow, that's pretty sick. But even there, what was interesting, theirs was like all black. It was like dark.
Yeah.
For theirs. But yeah, it was pretty crazy seeing actually the scale of those on how big those ships are out there.
Yeah, they had who did they have stationed there? I think it was the USS Missouri.
Yeah,
was there, and then they had another one that was they had another battleship that was in dock for something.
They had the submarine too. I have the submarine for World War II. We ended up in the submarine museum area without even realizing it, and we paid for it, and we were like, oh, I guess it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, this is separate from Pearl Harbor. All right, cool.
Yeah, we didn't
go on a submarine though. That was neat.
I know. I kind of wanted to do it, but history's not really Abby's thing, so I was just like, yeah, let's go. I mean, my main thing is I wanted to pay reverence to.
Of course.
It's just unreal when you think about what went down that day.
Mind blowing when you look at it. You just look at it and you're like, all of that happened here, like here.
Yeah.
And then you think about it, it doesn't look that big until we got on that boat going to Arizona, and it takes a minute getting across that whole channel, the whole Bay Area to get it. And you're like, oh, this place is huge.
Yeah.
of how big this is here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I loved having the chance to kind of like pay my respect there, and yeah. So that was kind of the whole point of what I was expressing is I've had a lot of mixed emotions going there because there's so much, aloha and love for that place, and the people do genuinely have this like essence, this like really happy, free, happy-go-lucky essence. Like I don't know, they call it aloha, right? And I watched a documentary on the way home because I was just like, I had so much mixed emotions going there because it just feels like we stepped in and just fucking snatched a lot of happiness from people and just exploit it with tourism.
Did you read the history though before all that, like all the wars that were going on between the islands?
Yeah.
Oh man, there was a lot of crazy shit that was happening before we got there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's just part of it, right?
Part of it, but the for us to go in, did you talk to anyone that was from America that now lives there? They're even just very chill people too. They're just like we asked a lot of people if they had what is that syndrome when you're stuck on an island and you can't go
I don't
anywhere?
know the name for it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But we asked them, they're like, yeah, you get it for like the first few weeks, and then it kind of goes away after a little while.
Yeah, because I mean, you're not really that locked. If you want to get the fuck out of there, it's pretty easy. You're not stuck on an island, but I'm with you.
We were also we were staying at the Four Seasons, right? And we went up the road. Christy wanted to go to this place called the Mermaid Cove, which is like you get down in. It's a popular like Instagram spot.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there, and then we were coming, and there was like families enjoying the area. We couldn't go down in it because the high tide was coming in, and the people at the Four Seasons even said like, if it's high tide coming in, it's too dangerous. Don't get down in there. And we looked down in people in there, and they were kind of freaking out, and we were like, yeah, it's a good idea not to get down in it because it's like a wash machine with around sharp rocks. So anyway, we went to leave, and this guy, our Uber, picks us up, and he's taking us back. He's like, oh yeah, y'all were in like the ghetto over there where that is. And we were like, what? All we did was pass a water plant and like a couple old houses getting over there. And I was like, sir, I think your version of ghetto is completely different than my version of ghetto. This is a beautiful ghetto. I'll come to this ghetto any day over here. Whatever you got in your mind.
We got lost and we went to the end of a cul-de-sac, and I was looking for like kind of a cliff beach access kind of thing, like a secluded thing. And there's a park that said Hawaiian Islands Beach Park Access or something that would make you think, hey, there's a beach that way. And I'm looking on Google Maps, and we get to the end of this cul-de-sac, and we're just chilling, trying to figure out the angle, and this lady comes out of her house, and we're out there. We're away from tourist shit for sure. We just been driving. We just went on a scenic drive for like an hour. So this lady comes out and she starts mean mugging, and I was like, all right, let's drive up to her and just talk and just let her know, hey, no ill will. And she had this scowl on her face, and we came up and she looked in the car and she was like, just gave me that nod. And I was like, hey, we're tourists, we're looking for a beach. She just melted and she was like, aloha, just like opened up, whatever. And not too far into the conversation, I was like, hey, we're just looking for a beach. And she started laughing. She's like, yeah, you're fucking lost. And I was like, definitely. But like, where should we go? What should we do? She said that people come down to the park. Apparently they have a pretty gnarly drug problem in the islands. I mean, that's
yeah. I remember hearing about that. So
she said people come down from the park and they'll do drug deals at the end of her cul-de-sac, or just get really fucked up, pass out back there. Or, she was like, it is Friday. People come down there and take a shit in the middle of the cul-de-sac. And I was like, what? It's like, that's a regular event. People come down. It's the middle of the day, lady. Like, what do you think? I'm going to get out of my red Jeep and squat down?
Well, it's funny. She was giving y'all a mean scout too. So y'all must, y'all are probably dressed up. Y'all don't look messed up or anything. So these are normal looking people that are coming down there.
All of those thoughts were going through my head. All of those thoughts. Yeah. And I got one of these cool masks. You know how I collect these things when I'm traveling?
Yeah.
So this is the one I get this time. I don't know if
nice.
It's not
Leo was
really
like,
in
let me
focus.
see that mask.
Let me see that mask, boy. Put that mask on, dog. Yeah, so got a cool mask, got a noisemaker for the niece, and
Nice.
And the fucking snorkeling was sick. I will say that, not to ride Hawaii too hard. We've got some conspiracies I want to get into. But the snorkeling was unreal. We went to one spot that I just thought was like a beach, and you could snorkel if you wanted to. This beach, they made us watch a 10-minute video before you could get down to the beach. So you had to make reservations and stuff, and I didn't know. We just showed up, and they're like, do you have a reservation? I was like, for the fucking beach? They're like, yeah, we can only let 1,400 people down a day. So
only 1,400 people a day.
We got lucky, and they had a reservation available. We go down there. We had to watch a video. I was like, fuck yeah, I want to do some snorkeling after this shit. Hell yeah. Dude, unreal. I couldn't believe this was like open to the public. I couldn't believe it. I mean, they made it like a state park or something, but the snorkeling was unreal. That poor reef's just getting fucked up. You know, there's kids going out there and grabbing hands, touching everything.
Maybe that's just, but they're just like, all right, this reef, you could do that too.
Right.
Don't do this to all the other ones around here.
Yeah. I mean, it was, from an educational standpoint, it was beautiful. God, I wish I had a GoPro. I swam through this whole, like, I was just checking out like an eel, and then all of a sudden all these fish come around me. Wow. It's a whole school of big yellow banana looking fish swimming all around me. And I swim with those dudes for a minute, and this enormous parrotfish. He was like this big. You know what a parrotfish is?
Yeah.
Yeah. This dude is munching down on some coral. He's got a big old beak, and you can hear him just taking chomps of this reef out. And he's right in front of me. He swam up next to me, and I'm like, hey, don't you get any ideas? And he's like, you're cool, I'm cool. And so we're just hanging out, and I'm just watching this dude just do his thing. He's the most vibrant colors.
Keeps that population down, too.
Well, I was just really excited not to see any lionfish, because that would be a fucking problem. I'm sure they have them there. I mean, they're everywhere. They're super invasive species, but
maybe, I don't know. I know they're huge in the Gulf and over in Japan. I guess that would make sense. It's the in between. Why wouldn't it be there then too?
Yeah, I know that's a real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sick though. Yeah, Hawaii was the first place where, because normally Chrissy and I are always about like go, let's do adventurous stuff, and it's always like hiking or like swimming or like, you know, by the end of the trip you're kind of exhausted, but you had a great time.
Yeah.
And at the end of this trip, we ended up doing a really nice massage at the end of the trip at the Four Seasons, which we didn't realize the level of like spa that the Four Seasons is. And Joey and his girlfriend always do like relaxing trips, and they always wonder why we do like these crazy like adventurous trips. And we're always like, well, why do you do like these things? You just sit at the hotel. And then we realized like, oh, because after that massage, we were like, we kind of wish we did more of this there, you know. We wish we kind of did more of like chilling, doing nothing type of thing.
I try and do that, but when I'm there,
so
I don't want to go. I kind of like to mix it up.
I want to explore the area, but then again, we were like, oh, if you go for like, I'm glad we got to explore the island a little bit for sure. We were like, if we would have done this one day, if we would have done like a whole day of like, let's go exploring and do all this, and then like the other half of the time, just relax in the hotel. We probably should have done more of that, but every day we were doing something. And so it was just the first time we were like, maybe we should make a trip where we just dedicate to staying at the resort that literally is about everything you need is here. The problem was it was also super expensive. Everything that you want is there. But across the street,
Hawaii is expensive.
Hawaii is expensive.
No doubt about that.
We were talking with people of like, what if you wanted to buy a car here? And they're like, it is cheaper to go to America, buy your car, and then have it shipped here.
Is it really? Is that why we kept talking about that? We were curious. We kept seeing a lot of plates from like California and stuff, and we're like,
it's cheaper to go there and then have it paid to just put it on a boat. And they said it takes about 2 weeks to a month, depending on what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
To get it there. But yeah, it's just, you just kind of play the waiting game, and it's just so much cheaper to do that than to pay for here. I don't know if you noticed it. There was never like new cars. It was always like a few years back cars that I saw. You know, it was very interesting seeing that. Like the newest car was like, the newest truck was probably like a 2018, 2017. You know, you kind of noticed that.
I did notice that actually
on the island, brand new.
Yeah. Or just the amount of shit there in general. I was like, everything here was fucking imported. I'm like,
That's wild to think about too. And the wild fact that they don't have anything that's like dangerous, like an animal that's dangerous. They kept all like poison out of all these years of people bringing things. They've been able to keep like poisonous creatures.
they screen everything. We had to go through that secondary screening before to get on the plane. And they're like, hey, if you got any kind of like fruits, vegetables, plants, soil, whatever, surrender it now. And some chick's like, I got an apple. Is that okay? He was like, no.
Oh,
No, what? Did you just hear anything I said? Like, he's like, no, give me your apple.
I literally am taking that from you.
Yeah.
It was amazing how much fruit was everywhere. Did you notice that up in the mountains too?
Oh, yeah.
There's just like random avocados and mangoes just growing.
Yeah.
Randomly.
And the little red
Everywhere.
berries. Little red
Yeah.
berries everywhere. Yeah.
It was interesting going to Maui, and when we went to Maui, the tour guy was telling us that like, oh, see all these like cattle here. There's only one family that owns most of this land here in Maui, and it's a Christian family that came here to immigrate. And then they were like, oh, we could just buy all this land off the locals and make a ton of money. So they bought this immigrated Christian family bought all this land in Maui. Even the famous dormant volcano mountain where I proposed on, they had owned that. And then they put all this cattle on it, made a deal with the U.S. government. So every beef that goes through Pearl Harbor and the U.S. government locally through there or going to the Pacific is from the Maui island that they grow there. And they only sell to the U.S. government, and they get the premium highest dollar for it. And so this family just is loaded in Maui. And to the point that they were like, oh, yeah, like where we went to, where the national park was, where I proposed at, they were like, oh, yeah, this family donated it to us, and so now we have this land. I was like, there was donated, but there was plenty of tax write-offs in there that they don't have to deal with anymore, for sure. But one thing I want to go to back there one day is whatever the stargazing is.
Making his inaugural appearance on the podcast.
Tried just did. Yeah, he was
You
just
ever see
in it.
that?
That was wild.
Dude.
A lot of yeah.
Shout out, buddy. All right.
He
He
came in, he
wanted
was
me
like,
to see
"I
his
did it."
butthole. He was like, Dad, you seen my butthole? Look at it. Look
He's a
at
little
it.
shy. It's like when you jump in the pool and get out your first time. You're like, oh, it's gonna come in.
It's just-
I don't know what the place is, but I want to go where they have the famous telescope on top of the mountain.
Oh, yeah. So we had an opportunity to do that, and I elected not to, just because we were driving so much. We did a coffee tour. That was pretty cool.
A coffee tour. That sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, because they got some dope ass coffee growing in the mountains and stuff. And I literally drove 2 hours one direction. That was on our anniversary to go do like a coffee bean tasting tour thing. It was honestly, it was sick.
Sure.
I felt like we did a couple lines before we left. I mean, we drank so much coffee. Not so much. we drank like a cup and a half, if I'm being honest. But like it was
Sure.
fresh, and I was wired. And then
Well, it's got to be coffee that you're not able to buy anywhere else except right there. So,
no, it was really cool because some of the coffee we tried, they do blue light therapy too, which is really interesting. And the guy was like, the owner's like kind of honest about it. He's like, I don't know. There's no studies that can back up what we're doing with this coffee, but he's like, after we started doing the shit, it started winning a bunch of awards. So they show like the water molecules before and then after, and so it shows how it affects the beans and stuff. And they do like sound therapy with the plants as they're growing, so they grow them in this like really interesting environment. Some of the beans, not some of the plants, not all of them. But on this farm, man, it was so funny. They had all kinds of animals like turkeys and peacocks and chickens and cats. And I chilled with this cow while I was drinking the coffee a lot. And as we're leaving, Abby said something, kind of laughed. And there was a cockatoo or a parrot of some kind that they had in cages over there. And we heard someone laugh. And we look and there's no one around. And Abby's like, was that the bird? So we say something again, and this bird starts laughing. I've heard some shit in my day, Dylan, but man, we laughed so hard. I thought I was going to piss and shit myself at the same time. This bird, you would laugh, and it would laugh back to you. Oh my God, that I gotta send you that video. That's
I want to experience that.
Yeah,
that Hawaii is definitely another trip we're going to take. That there's just so much cool stuff there. It is incredible.
And we went the whole trip. Can you believe I went the whole trip and didn't get laid one time?
You're so tired though. Every day, you come back at the end, you just pass back out.
I'm talking about the flowers, dog. I'm talking about the necklace.
Even that too. You didn't get laid once?
Not
Like, out there
once.
on that? Wow.
Yeah, I'm not talking about I didn't get any tail. I'm saying I didn't get the lays. We didn't do the flower necklace thing. Is the proper way you express that is getting laid? Is that?
I mean, I guess the only time I got laid was when we were walking into the Four Seasons a couple times, but they
Right.
had like ready to go. They had like
Yeah.
a wall of them. They were just like, here you go, here you go. We got like different versions of it. I really think it's just like they're not doing it really when you come off. You thought like I did. I thought they would do it as you're coming off the plane, and they're like, "Welcome to Hawaii" and stuff
Right.
like that. And they were like, "Nah, just welcome
Yeah.
to here." I guess.
Here you go. Did you bring anything from the mainland for us?
Did you bring anything for us? That was actually an interesting thing I talked about with some of our tour guides. That I was like, so like psychedelics. Tell me about that. Like, what's going on out here with that? And they were like, yeah, like it's around here. It doesn't really grow here, so you have to get it to come in. And so I was just like, that's kind of interesting. That with all this tropical environment, I would think it'd be pretty prominent there. But he was like, you can get your hands on some. You know, there's stuff that comes in that you can get your hands on out here.
Oh, mushrooms would grow like crazy there.
That's what I figured.
They're just not probably native.
They're not native to it. Like I tried to look while I was on the trails. I didn't really see mushrooms on the trails, which was
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I guess bad day for me then, but like
Yeah.
I didn't really see anything. But they were like, oh yeah, you can find somebody that's growing them personally or something out here for it.
That's all it is. I mean, if you went out there, like Paul Stamets, do you follow him on social media?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching his stuff where he'll talk about on his property that he'll be like, oh, I planted this, or there's a term for it, right? Like sported or whatever. And he's like, I did this like 9 seasons ago, and he'll show you how it's like grown and just kind of like fared it out over the years. It'd be the same thing, you know, if you went and dropped some spores in different spots, you know, in ideal growing conditions. But I saw some that look just like golden teachers. Like that's how I recognized it and started looking for other mushrooms.
So speaking of mushrooms, so I went to and while we're on the topic, I went to the Ybor mushroom place and I bought mushrooms.
They have them in pills?
So they're in capsules.
Yeah.
And so they are in microdoses of 350 milligrams each on these. And so I asked them, I was like, what? Like, how are we doing this? And so there's the 2 different versions. They sell it Amina muscaria varieties, right?
Okay.
There's this, I don't know, I can't remember what, I think it was just psilocybin. There's this, psilocybin, because this says this product does not contain psilocybin on it.
Uh-huh.
But they have the strains Penis Visi, Alcabenza, Mezatepec, and Burma. I think that's the B+ one. They have the varieties that you normally take. It's just this one is the other psychedelic version, Amanita muscaria. So there's psilocybin and Amanita muscaria. And they said the legal version one is Amanita. Psilocybin is not a legal version. I was like, what? And I was like, well, what varieties you got? And they told me Penis V, and I was like, I'll buy that. And they were like, we're out. I was like, well, then why'd you tell me that? So anyway, I went in there, but this was like for 350 milligrams. They put it in little capsules. They grind it up, put it in little capsules for you. And I think this was like $45.
Did you try it yet?
Not yet. It's coming for sure. I'm going to Halloween next weekend. I think I'm going to try it out there while I'm out there.
I would try it before you get there so you don't get any false expectations.
Maybe I'll try this weekend. I got a bachelor party.
Yeah, just do a little bit. You ain't got to do a lot
with it. Yeah, I'll probably take 2 and check it out. But I know we had talked about it before, and I posted about it, and it's real.
Is the whole capsule filled?
Filled.
Okay.
To the brim. Yeah.
And it's like crushed up. It's not stemmy. Yeah.
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 It's
So
completely powdery crushed up on it.
So that's about 0.2, 0.25.
That's what I'm thinking. And she was like, I did it, and I bought it, and she was like, have fun. Like, you will have fun on this.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
cool. All right. And
Yeah, when I've made my own microdose schedules, so if you took 2, it'd be about half a gram. You would know it too.
But that's just the first one it's just crazy that the first one in the country is in Ybor. And I was like, I walk in and they had it was basically a smoke shop, really. Yeah. And then they were like, we're also doing this. And so it was a lot of people were in there just buying smoke shop stuff. And I went and asked, and I was like, hey, what is this about? And she was like, oh, let me tell you. Kind of like if you go into like a bud shop and you have a bud tender, and they're telling you like, this is how this works and this is how this works. That's what she was doing. Except
really
the mushrooms, mushroom capsules. And then she made clear this is not psilocybin, but it is Amanita muscaria. Probably pronouncing that wrong. And
Amanita muscaria is
also hallucinogenic, which is, I guess that's a legal version of it.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, Amanita muscaria is that's the Santa Claus mushroom. That's the one that's red with the pronounced white dots, right? Oh. So that active ingredient should be psilocybin. That's what I'm not understanding.
I don't understand it either. But I was like, is it going to make? And she was like, oh yeah, you take enough of them, it'll do it for sure.
Oh no. Okay, so with the main psychoactive constituents being neurotoxins, ibotenic acid, and muscimol. Okay, so
Amanita muscaria varieties, but in particular A muscaria, var muscaria, I don't know what this means, are noted for their hallucinogenic properties.
So you're just going to read the same thing I just read?
With the main psychoactive constituents being their neurotoxins, ibotenic acid, and muscimol. So
proud
I
of
just wanted to...
If it wasn't highlighted or bolded first, now it's underlined. Shit. Tell you what.
Thick.
Boy.
Thick boy. Yeah, so I'm excited to try these out and just see what... I mean, it was expensive for how much you really get, but...
oh, yeah, those are going to make you trip dick then. If that's... oh, no, that's a for certain. I think I would look up... I
mean, they put the it's like a reflective... like trippy looking label that they put on there, so hopefully exactly what they do.
I would look up this oh no, you want to take those with a little bit of ginger. That's what it was. From my brother and others that I know that used to like hunt for those dudes.
Yeah.
That type of mushroom. They said it's just a little tougher on your stomach. So if you do like a lemon tech with it, which you're not because it's in a capsule.
Do the little ginger chews.
Yeah. Just get some ginger in your tummy.
I'm going to do that at the beach this weekend.
That'll help out with any of the stomach pain.
I'm going to do that when we go to the beach. That's going to be fun.
Just depends on how much you take. If you're not taking a lot, you probably don't even have to worry about much of the stomach shit anyway.
I was going to do 2 and just test it out, see what happens, and go from there. But I'm excited. I was just like, holy shit. If this works out, like, that's just a nice thing to have right there to be able to go to.
I know, man. I keep feeling called to Denver because it's decriminalized there. You know,
I want to go to Denver really bad too. So the call is also. I also want to go and do Pikes Peak and hike that sucker.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of nature to explore up there, and I feel like
I would like to go in the winter though. It'd be fun to go in the good snow time.
Yeah. Do you think it's a better idea to? I mean, we're talking about. Do you think it's a better idea to kind of move up there for a month and attempt living there?
Yes.
Or do you think,
100% before you do it, like if you're thinking about doing it, just go. So a lot of people actually do this in my neighborhood because it's they don't want, like, you have to go through kind of an interview process for Airbnbs in this neighborhood on the water, but you can call someone with a nice Airbnb there and negotiate a price with them for a month. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
Because you did it. But just, negotiate like a rental price, kind of what you would do for like a long-term hotel stay anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Try it out for a month.
That's
see
what
what
we're
happens.
thinking, man. That's what we're thinking.
I would also do that, live there for a month, and if you can, it'd be cool if you invited a couple of friends during that time because you'll be there, right? And you have both of your own mindsets on what's going on, but to have people to kind of come in from the outside and be like, hey, this is what we're thinking, and then they can even give you some thought. I'd like to have Tyler even come in for a day, hang out with you, or someone from like Luke come in and come hang out with you and be like, here's what our thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I mean, we're I like Austin. I do. It just, from the get-go, I kind of told you, it doesn't feel like home necessarily.
Well, I feel like you're on the ramp up of Austin. Like Austin is just like, I mean, it's like an Elon rocket right now, just like rocking it up. Whereas Denver is like, they had that time.
Yeah.
And they've settled. People are still moving there, but it's kind of it's kind of weird to say. Everywhere's got their factions in Denver now.
Yeah.
On, and they figured it out.
Yeah. We'll be kind of feeling into that and stuff. It's trippy too, though, man. I'm glad I jumped on the housing market thing when I did, because now interest rates are double. Literally, the average national interest rate is 6.07%. So
right now, I'm glad I did it too.
Yeah,
where it was.
I don't know that.
I'm glad we did it a year ago on that condo. Christy and I got then. Even she was like, "This is pretty." I'm like, "It's going to double. It will double. We got to do this now."
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, what do you think? Rent this place out that I'm in right now?
Yeah,
hold it.
You got it. Why not? I mean, frankly, you already told me before you wish you rented out your place in Ybor.
Yeah.
But you got a good chunk, which was great. But that mindset that crossed you, why not try it out here in Austin and just rent it out? Because that's a solid spot.
Yeah.
That is. I remember being there. That's a solid spot. You're not near anything bad. The type of person that's going to go in there is going to be a nice family, probably, that's going to go in there. So you don't have to worry about too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get down with that.
Nice little income paying for that mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's a nice little thing. And then you go to Denver and you're like, oh, great. Like now we have a little bit of everything that we wanted here.
Dude, and shout out. I'm probably going to make a post about this. Shout out to the government. Didn't think you'd see this one coming, but between Between COVID relief and now the student loan forgiveness thing, I was paying ahead, an extra $80 per payment. I think my student loan payment was $300. And while interest rates were 0, I was like, I'm not going to go bonkers on this because it makes more sense to put that money into the market. I was like, hey, I'll just pay an extra 33%, right? Sure. Just to take advantage of that. So between COVID and if I get approved for the student loan forgiveness, that'll be $45,000 that I've gotten from government programs.
I applied, but they capped it out at 125, so I'm kind of upset that they even capped it. I applied. We'll see what happens.
That's the fucking problem with being a W-2. I was telling you that, man. That's the problem with being a W-2.
I applied it, and I'm like, well, hopefully there's an error somewhere, and I just get it.
Yeah. Well, I sent you that video on how to get some W-9s as a W-2, offset some of your taxes.
Yeah.
So maybe check into some of that stuff, but that's not going to help you now. But
why not make it for everybody? If you're going to do it, just do it for everybody. I get
because you're rich, Dylan. You're rich.
No, but why not do it for everybody? Like, oh, really? We're going to cap it out for the people that are actually now able to afford paying it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, you've now worked your ass off to get to the point to where you can pay. You know what's even crazier to think about is that they capped it out at 125 because it takes to getting above 125 to be able to afford your payment.
Yeah.
They're like, they figured out that number and said at 125, anything below that, it is difficult to make a student loan payment.
Definitely, man. And
that's insane.
And on top of that, what I don't understand is like when the whole housing market thing or COVID was hitting, and they're causing this housing bubble by saying like, hey, you can't kick people out. Right. Like if you could not evict people. And the way they rewarded you for that was the mortgage forbearance where you could like not have to pay your shit, but the interest rates kept going. I'm like, you're punishing the people that are smart enough to put themselves in a position to take care of others. Those are the people you're really punishing. I mean, it's a catch-22. You're fucked either way, right?
Yeah.
By causing, a response in the national disaster and whatever. I'm not trying to pick that apart, but
that's another episode.
that's a whole nother episode of the show.
Yeah, that whole thing has been crazy. But I'm glad we jumped on it when we did. And man, Hawaii must have been fantastic. I'm glad you got to go and experience that. We want to go back and do that again too. And we're gonna have some good guests coming on here soon. I'm excited. We're gonna get Luke and Black Mamba back on. I'm excited.
Yeah,
about
man.
that.
I want to talk to you about getting Ozzy to build us out a form for people submitting stuff. And shout out to everybody that has been supporting our friends over there at Test Kit. If you need test kit for your stuff, making sure you're safe. That was really cool to see the way you guys have supported them. So we got some great feedback about that. So if you need a good kit, head over to testkitplus.com/professional hippies. I believe you get like a little bit of savings there. We get a kickback on our end. So they'll hook you up.
We're going to be, I'll be at Halloween in a couple weekends, and I got all the beach balls ready to go. Stickers, slapping them on. It's going to be great. I got a whole, every time we do that,
slapping a ball.
Slapping that ball across. I remember last Halloween, I remember watching Barclay Crenshaw at the fire stage, just hitting these balls out like crazy. And he was like, look at all these beach balls everywhere.
Look at all them balls out there, y'all.
It's like, yeah, look at that.
Hey.
So it was like, you're the one putting them out. And I was like, yeah.
That's me.
That's me.
Well, if you want to tickle our balls and slap our balls around, go ahead and make sure you leave a review. We appreciate that.
Thick
okay.
One.
Slap your thoughts right under our podcast. And, maybe bounce this ball to a friend. If you love us, if you like us, if you feel like someone would dig us, share it with a friend. Share it with a homie.
Share it with everyone you love. Share it with your cat, your dog, your friends, your family.
Oh.
Everybody. I'm glad Triton made an appearance.
Yeah, thanks, Triton. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Triton. All right, everyone. Till the next episode. Peace. Love you
Peace.
all.
Oh.